Okay, welcome to the qualifying preview for the Melbourne Grand Prix. This is the first F1 race 2026. Big drama already with some of the teams looking really bad shape. Lots of mechanical issues already. I'm going to run through it here because new cars, new regulations, some new drivers as well. Some new drivers actually impressing. I'm going to let you know all about it. So first of all, topping FP2 is Oscar Piastri in the McLaren, a 1 minute 19.7. Now, worth mentioning that in FP1, Oscar Piastri had some kind of issue with the car. So there was an issue for Piastri. There was also an issue for Norris, a big issue for Norris, which meant he basically did no laps in FP1. But in FP2, he did actually manage to do 29 laps, doing some race pace, and ended up P7, a second off Oscar Piastri. So it looks like the McLarens, with their Mercedes engine, actually doing quite well. Now, P2 and P3 in FP2 was Antonelli, just a couple of tenths off, 2 tenths off Oscar Piastri, and George Russell in P3, 3 tenths off. They weren't looking that super quick in FP1, but they were clearly sandbagging a bit. The race pace from Mercedes looks super quick. We know that they have some kind of advantage with the engine compression ratio at the moment. Why? Because the FA are going to close that loophole midway through the season. So the Mercedes engine is looking really strong, and people like Zak Brown at McLaren have been saying that actually Mercedes, the factory team, have an advantage there because they've understood the particular benefits of the engine for longer than the customer teams. So I would say that George Russell is looking really strong to win the Melbourne GP. Qualifying is going to be very important with the current start procedures and the teams that take longer to spool up the turbo, which does seem to be Mercedes engines. So qualifying going to be important, but irrespective of where they qualify, looks like George Russell and Kimi Antonelli looking really strong on race pace. The Ferraris, meanwhile, were looking really good in FP1 and looking decent in FP2. So P4 and P5, Hamilton followed by Leclerc in FP2. They have a smaller turbo on that Ferrari engine. They should benefit from the start. So even if they start further back, there's a good chance they're going to have lightning starts until the other teams really work out the turbo situation or the start procedure is changed. So this could be fantastic for Hamilton and Leclerc. Again, I would expect to see personally a Ferrari challenging for the podium, but we will find out. Now, Max Verstappen in FP2 was 6th. Verstappen was also looking really strong in FP1. And I would say I was asked for my tip for the season before FP1, and I said Max Verstappen. I would not count out Max Verstappen because if it's going to be a chaotic season, then he might be the driver that's just grinding out good results better than anyone else. Now, Norris, I told you, is in P7. Arvid Lindblad in P8, and I believe he was P5 or P6 in FP1 as well. So Lindblad doing really well in the Racing Bulls, doing actually much better than Liam Lawson. This is a big surprise because a lot of people, including myself, saying Lindblad's going to struggle because the new generation of cars are so difficult, but Lindblad is doing really well. And Isaac Hadjar, although he only came P9 in FP2, he was looking really strong in FP1. So Isaac Hadjar seems to be a driver that's actually really understanding this Red Bull racing car better than any of Max's previous teammates in recent memory, if that makes sense. Then we've got the Hasses coming in 10th and 11th, so you can start to see that the teams are kind of coming in pairs here a little bit. The Hasses have looked very consistent. They've got the Ferrari engine. Ollie Behrman's looking quite confident. And then the Audis were looking quite good in FP1. They've dropped down to 12th and 14th in FP2. So we'll see what's going on with the race pace for Audi. But does it look like there is some inherent pace in that car? But we will see what happens in the race itself. Liam Lawson, meanwhile, was in P13. And then you have P15. Oh my goodness. Alex Albon for Williams. P16, Gasly in the Alpine. P17, Sainz in the Williams. P18, Colapinto in the Alpine. All of these drivers between 2 and 3 seconds off Oscar Piastri's fastest time. Not looking good for Williams. Alex Albon had a big issue in FP1. Had to actually retire the car. And the Alpine's just not looking good as well, even though they've got the Mercedes engine, just so it's too chaotic at Alpine. And disappointingly, for the Cadillacs, I was thinking that Cadillac were going to do better potentially than Audi, but actually Cadillac are really struggling here. They've got that Ferrari engine, which is all the way at the top in the hands of Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc, but they're down in P19 for Bottas and P22 for Sergio Perez. Didn't even really do more than installation lap in FP2, and they weren't that much better in FP1. And then we get to Aston Martin. So if you've been living under a rock, you won't know, but I'll let you know. There's some big issues with the power unit, or at least all of the noise in Aston Martin is blaming the power unit. I would say that they need to direct some of the blame at themselves for not checking on the power unit. But the power unit is causing vibrations. Fernando Alonso did not take part in FP1 at all. I was speculating that maybe he refused to take part to make a point, because the car is actually causing so much vibration through the steering wheel that it's potentially damaging the hands of the drivers. Lance Stroll did go out in FP1 but then retired very early with a similar power unit issue. And in FP2, this is unbelievable. Fernando Alonso 5 seconds off the pace, Lance Stroll 6 seconds off the pace. So really bad times for Aston Martin. And I feel like it's an uncomfortable truth that Formula 1 don't want to talk about, because Formula 1 want to pretend that every team has a chance, like it's a franchise system. It ain't. This ain't a franchise system. This is Formula 1. It's hardcore technical fundamentals, and Aston Martin are way, way, way off. And I predict this is going to end with Lawrence Stroll leaving the Aston Martin company in the UK altogether, even the roadside cars. And I think that's kind of a massive cascading effect in the UK. So I think this is absolutely huge. And you know, fingers need to be pointed and people need to take accountability. And I don't think Adrian Newey can be the person that turns this around, because I think he owns too much of this. So in terms of qualifying, I would say keep an eye out for Max Verstappen, because we've seen this before where he's not always turning up the wick in free practice, but he could do that in qualifying. Also, the Mercedes might feel like their race pace is so strong they don't want to turn up the engine too much in qualifying and just let everyone know exactly how quick they are. So maybe the Ferraris could sneak in there, or maybe it'll be in the McLarens. Maybe it will be Oscar Piastri home Grand Prix that will really want to get that pole position. We will see. But very interesting start of the season there. Finally, it's kind of shaping up. It's great to have new teams, like actual new teams like Cadillac, but also like a newly branded team like Audi feels like a new team as well. And having 22 cars on the grid, technically, because if Aston Martin don't make the grid, it will just be back to 20. It's really exciting. So please follow me if you like this video. We're going to try and do these before qualifying in the race all the way through the season. Like it if you enjoyed it as well, and I'll see you next time.